Hey, you're here with Alex Lee from Bond by Blood. I'm almost done with the tour. I'm actually back home for a day, and then I hit Las Vegas, and then I'm officially home. But this goes to a lot of the guys asking me about my scales and what are my favorite scales, and how do I put them in various different backing tracks and songs and my improvs and all that mumbo jumbo stuff. So I'll be completely honest with you. I really don't know like all my scales to like the hey, this is harmonic minor and B with the mixolydian flat with the seventh, things like that. I'm just not that educated with, but being self-taught, I go by a lot of ear training. So whatever, if there's a chord progression where it's like I'll record it, listen to it, slide into the notes, and that's basically how I start, making solos. But enough of the talk. I actually wrote down some of the scales in Guitar Pro, good old Guitar Pro, to show you what I use a lot from a lot of just, looking into what I do in my playing. There's like 4 or 5 scales that I really like to use. And sometimes when I get into the more complicated solos, I'll put up the Guitar Pro scales and try to figure out a scale that I like to use. So that's how I usually do it. So I'll go with one of the first ones, which is, I guess it's an F major. So it starts on an F. So that's F major. I'm playing the F right here because I'm in half step tuning, so people who are in standard tuning, don't freak out. Just flatten. Actually, flatten the notes that I'm playing. If you don't want to change to E flat, people who are in D, drop D or whatever, you have to sharpen. And people who are in E flat like me, you are good to go. So once again, that's F major. The cool thing about scales that I figured out is for training purposes for your guitar playing, if you get like that chord, listen to the chord, how it sounds, and then try to find them starting with the root note. For example, like I was playing right now, F. The reason why I started here is because that's the octave, So So it gives you a lot of practice, and finding all of your notes across the fretboard. So that's what I do. If you get really bored, just mess around with that. Pop up Guitar Pro. If you don't, download it. And if you don't have it, buy a scale book. And if you can't do that, ask a friend who's better than you, who knows all these scales. So I'll go on to the next scale that I use a lot, and that's the minor scale. This one says it's D sharp, so I'll start with D sharp. It says on 7. Goes. So there you have it. D sharp minor. With the next one I like to use a lot is the diminished scale. I popped it up here. This is a C diminished, so it starts on 4. And then from there, if you don't really know how to use this scale, the typical 3-note per string is that's starting on 9th. And then you can actually shift to the next position. So what I usually do is that I think it's a note, a full note and a half to the next one. That's how I usually go up with my diminished runs. And I also use harmonic minor. I forgot to check what scale, or actually what the root note is that I start with the harmonic, but it starts from ascending to descending. It starts on the 15. So that'd probably be maybe A sharp. I'm not sure. I'll pop up the scales. Yep, A sharp. So I'm good. Okay, now that I showed you some scales, just put it into your normal daily practice. If you want to extend your scale research, go online or even look on Guitar Pro at the scales, and you'll find a bunch of them. In every key, mode, whatever you want, you got it there. I'm not a scale expert, so I use that whenever I can. And use your ear, because that's what music's about, is listening to it. So play, listen. If you have a melody idea in your head, try to implement it on your scale. Backing tracks you can find on YouTube. Just go into search, put in guitar backing tracks, or if you have a certain kind of style you want to play, you can go metal backing track, thrash backing track, 80s metal backing track, ballad backing track, pop backing tracks. You name it, you can get it. I found an old little tune I made, so I'll just put a little loop and give you some little ideas of what you can do, and also work on your phrasing and your vibrato, because that's just as important as playing your scales. Little minor to major thing. So with that idea in mind, you can use your major or minor scale, or whatever scale works well with that tune. Just listen to it and try to make something. So it's not perfect, but that's the beauty of practicing. Whatever you don't like or whatever doesn't sound good, you can always go back to it. So I hope this video helps you, and keep practicing.